2018. Can we have approval of the agenda?
I'd like to add 2 items, Mr. Chair. First is recreation for all. First be recreation for all under new business, and second is transit study update, also under new business, I would think. Thank you. And with those changes, I move the adoption of the agenda.
Been moved by Mayor Danny McGilvery.
I second.
Been seconded by Councillor Lewan. All those in favor? Aye. Against? Motion carried. Can we have approval of the minutes? Approval of the previous minutes.
I so move.
I'll second that.
It's been moved by Councillor Lewan and seconded by Councillor Campbell. All those in favor? Against? Motion carried. Business arising from the minutes? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 4. Or item number 5, I'm sorry. Presentation from Dean, Cindy McKinnon.
Thank you. There, I didn't press it hard enough. Thank you for having me, and thanks to Susan for putting us on the agenda. So for this evening, I'm just going to go, it's just really an overview of some of the highlights. Certainly not going to talk about everything that we've done the last year, but just some highlights of things that have gone on and things that are going to go on in the next few months. Excuse me. As I put in your package, there's 2 visitors guides there, one for the Northumberland Shore, one for the Eastern Shore. We continue to get positive feedback on those, and we've been asked, we ask questions and surveys to our membership, and every time it comes back that those are still popular items, so we'll continue to do that until that information is not usable for our visitors. We're also still into the motorcycle guide. We don't participate in the motorcycle shows, but we do have a page ad in both pages of the Northumberland and Eastern Shore in that guide, and those guides are actually, if not more popular, they're just as popular as the Doers and Dreamers publication. So they're being used a lot. They're a smaller digest size, and they're a very popular tool. We were at the Saltscapes Expo again at Exhibition Park. Actually, we weren't at Exhibition Park. It's been at Exhibition Park. We were in the new building just up the road a little bit, in the low building this year. And again, probably close to 25,000, 30,000 people that we're talking to. We had a delegation of about 16, 17, 18 in there for booths, and a wide representation of both shores. So it's a really great place to talk to people and really convince them to come to our part of the province. And also the map that's in your package, that's a map that we produced last year. Very positive feedback coming from the visitors on that. There's no advertising, and we're going to do our best to keep it that way. There's a lot of maps that are out there that have a lot of advertising. We've also noticed this year that there's also a lot of publications coming out very similar to our regional guide. So we know of 3 others. 1 is on its way, and 2 others that one's been produced and one is being produced as we speak. And none of those are ours. We can't endorse them. We don't know what information's in them. We do endorse and we do produce those 2 guides that you have now. So we are finding that there's some duplication. There's some things happening right now. That map, we own both of those, so we can make changes to anything. If you see something not on that, excuse me, we will be making another print run probably this fall to do us for the next year. So have a look at those. If you see something that you'd like to see added, not everything is on that, and not everything will be on that, but a lot of the attractions and things that visitors are asking for are on those maps. So we maintain, there's 2 visitor centers that we maintain here in the county, and there's 7 others within the region. Just about a little over 40,000 visitors came through all of those centers in 2017, which is pretty significant, because if you think of the way that we keep our stats, if all of you come into the visitor center, but only Susan talks to us, Susan is the only one that's recorded. So really the numbers are much bigger than what we actually have in stats. And we do that because we know what we've spoken about to Susan. You may come in and ask to go to the washroom, and that's not a true visitor for us. So that's how we keep our stats. The numbers are really a little bit bigger than that. And at our 2 centers alone in Pictou County, we had just over 10,000 people. So 10,000 people plus that we can encourage and keep them into the county and into the region to stay and spend their money. And this is an interesting stat, one that we actually haven't been able to get for a couple of years. $500 million generated just on the Northumberland shore in tourism revenue. That's about 18% of the province's tourism revenue. So that's pretty significant for our little shore. And $500 million is a lot of money to come into the area. And so that's also tax revenue that's going to come directly to the municipal units as well. So that's a pretty good stat for us. We've increased the social media campaign a little bit. We've done some more work to it. We have some videos. We have more videos that are coming, and we have more pictures that are coming. We also have a lot of travel writers that are coming through the community, and we're able to influence where they're going and what they're doing, and we're also getting those stories as they go back to write about those. The cruise committee, we are still helping a little bit with that committee and seeing some of the things happening for the cruise ships coming in. There's still a couple more to come, and I think there's still some more work that can be done on those, and we're helping where we can on that. A big thing coming up next week, Special Olympics, and we've been looking after the accommodations for family and friends. The athletes are staying on campus at St. X. We've been looking after friends and family, and actually just probably the last month or so, the volunteers as well. Visitors coming from all across the country, people coming from across the country to volunteer. So it's really been a great event. We filled the rooms in Antigonish quickly. Then we moved into Pictou County to fill those rooms, and they're for the most part full. We can find a few rooms if we have to. Last week we had a request for 30, and we filled those up with different places within the county. But it'll have a huge economic impact on Pictou County as well as Antigonish, so that's really good for the shore. And we'll know more of that as the event goes on. But it starts Tuesday, goes into Saturday. And this weekend we'll be giving out the volunteer packages, so it'll be a busy 7 days for sure. We had, and we continue to have, a great partnership with the Ferry, NFL, not the Football League. So we have a great partnership with them. Last year we did a taste and sail dinner. And Your Worship, you were there, and I think you can probably back me up on this. It was a great event. We couldn't have asked for better weather. We had a wonderful sunset as we sailed into the harbor, and we had a lot of people asking if we're going to do it again, and the answer is yes. We aren't going to be doing it in 2018 though. We had to pick a date that didn't we had to go against a couple of other events, so we chose to keep something. We're going to do something on September 22nd. It'll be local. We will be doing something that we'll be announcing in the next couple of weeks, but it is exciting, and there's still food involved and there's still entertainment involved, so it'll be a nice event. But we'll probably be doing the Ferry dinner in 2019 again. They want to do it. They said that they've done this a couple of times, and it's never been as smooth as when we did it last year. So we think we'll be doing it again. And also, I sit on the Hemlock group that's helping create the Trenton Park become Pictou County's outdoor signature destination. So I am sitting on that as well and helping where we can with that. Just a little bit about revenue. You'll see that our budget's about the same. It's up about $10,000 from last year. It's down significantly from a few years ago where we used to have the provincial funding. We had about another $150,000 added to our budget. But one thing to remember with those figures is that's not projects that are outside of our typical budgeting. So we're doing the projects like visitor centers, visitors guides, things like that. We have a $500,000 project that we're doing on the Eastern Shore right now. That's not included in that, obviously. And we have the application into ACOA for the Northumberland Shore project, which is another $250,000. So those two projects aren't in our budget currently. That's our operational and project funding, and those others will be added to it as we move along and things progress on those. So in 2011, when we started, we had the figure of $75,000 for the municipal units, and 2018 we've kept that the same figure. We were asked quite a few times from the municipalities if we were going to increase that once our provincial funding ended, but we had made an agreement that that's not something we were going to push back onto the municipalities. We found other ways to deal with that. So we've kept our funding the same, and the request is the same as last year at $4,600 and some change. That's the request going forward for 2018, and it's pretty much bang on with what last year's request was. One other thing that I will add to this, and it's not on this slide, but the kiosk is actually up. It's stained. It looks great, and the panel, the large 4x8 panel, is supposed to be delivered tomorrow night. So it will be up in time for your event. So thank you to Councillor Lewan. I know it's been a long time coming, but it is going to be up, and it will be up for your homecoming. So, yeah, my pleasure. So if there's any questions or any comments to make, I'll be happy to answer those.
Cindy, just are you aware of the dog shows that are going to happen in 2019? The dog shows? Yeah. Well, there's 2 dog shows going to happen in 2019, and they're going to be back to back. They're going to be national dog shows, which will be bringing the people in from all across Canada, eastern United States. Yes, yeah. Well, and there are 2 separate shows. There'll be one and then the other. Right now, they have 170 rooms pre-booked for the dog show. So I did mention that they should touch base with you guys, because there might be something that you could float in there or help them with. Because if people are coming in, it's a good chance to bring visitors back. We'll get them in here. Yeah. Andy Kenny and Andy Kenny and Gary Matheson are the 2 that you would be contacts. But I was involved with them. That's how I know, and I know they had talked about meeting with. But it would be phenomenal. It would be great because if we can get people in, you get them the return. What usually happens with one of the shows, they have one in Eastern Canada and one in Western Canada. So that's usually in Toronto. So they're trying to get it so it comes to the Maritimes every second year. And the other one, so both of them are going to be huge with a lot of participants. It's September. Yeah. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Cindy. I was just wondering the 10,000, well, first there's 2 local visitor centers. I know everyone's pretty familiar with the one in Pictou. Is the other one at exit 21? Yes, do you know the breakdown, the 10,000 visitors between Pictou and exit 21?
Yeah, Pictou's bigger. Sorry. Pictou's bigger. Pictou's probably about 7,000, and then Westville would be about 3. And this year we're expecting it to be a little bit bigger, a little higher, just because of there's no construction, there's no ferry issues, everything's happening. So far it's been good. We don't know past this year what'll happen because the center is sold. So, yeah.
And also you mentioned there's 3 other publications doing regional guides. Are they private or private? Okay. And I think it's very impressive that you have the same ask from 2011 to 2018, especially with the provincial funding being pulled. So it's very impressive and good management. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Cindy, thank you very much. The work that you guys do are awesome, whether it is on the committees or the center or the publication. It's all very good. And thank you very much also for the kiosk. I appreciate it. A couple of questions. Well, actually, one question. I remember last year, when you were presenting, or when Dean was presenting, you were talking about a database website for all of the events that are happening. Did that ever materialize?
It will. It hasn't yet. That was part of the ACOA application that we submitted, and so last year we had submitted it. We had almost all of the municipal units on site at that point, but they needed all of them on site, and we had made all the council presentations yet, so we couldn't give them that commitment that all of the municipalities were on board. So they had to hold off on the application. The application was submitted again this spring, and we were told a couple of weeks ago we should have confirmation of approval very soon. So that will happen. We have a person on staff right now. He started in February as part of a job creation project, and he's been working on the website, so we've got a lot of the content built already. So once we get the approvals, once the tenders go out and we know who's going to do it for us, we have a lot of the content already built, which takes a lot of the time anyway. We have that already started. So it hasn't yet, but it's going to. And the event-based, we have an event strategy in that application as well, and so that will happen as soon as that funding, the federal funding. We have the provincial, we have all of the municipal units. We just have to wait for their approval. Yeah.
So follow-up question to that would be, this is a great project that you will be doing or the deans will be doing. Is there a mechanism for the towns to piggyback on your website, whether through embedding it in our website or a way that we can advertise it for you as well?
Sorry, I just turned you off, didn't I? I got too anxious there. I remembered to do it. I just remembered. Absolutely, and that would be our hope, actually, because one of the things that we're very much, we don't want to see duplication. We don't want to see people wasting money on things that somebody else is already doing. So if we can piggyback on the events piece, on the information, if we can just link to each other, that's really what our hope is that we can do it all together. We'll be putting a steering committee together to do all of those projects, and with any luck, we'll have a representative from the different municipalities that'll help sit on that and pull it together. So. So we won't hold you to that yet, but you're welcome.
Any more questions, Councillor Lewan?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Cindy, I'd like to thank you on behalf of Council for coming. It was an excellent presentation. And I'd like to just reiterate what Danny said about your budget. You keep it in line, and I know it's hard. Everybody's crying for money today, and it looks like you guys are doing a heck of a good job with the amount of money that you got. You're welcome.
I'm glad you left the fan on because it kind of defeats the purpose having this in front of me. It's really hot.
Thanks again, Cindy. All right, Susan, we have correspondence.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is a piece of correspondence for your information regarding Green for Life. Mayor McGilvery may have more information as this is from the Pictou County Shared Services Authority. I'm not.
Just add that it's basically the company that A1 Refuse has been sold to GFL. We weren't initially anticipating any change in service levels or any type of problems. There has been a couple minor things raised at the Shared Service Authority, but we're going to address those. We don't anticipate them being major issues, though.
Thank you, Mayor McGilvery. All right. The next issue is Nova Scotia Health Authority, non-medical cannabis policy options. Simon, would you like to speak on this issue?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. I just want to ask Susan maybe if she can investigate the current bylaws that we have and investigate the need of introducing a new bylaw for the few things that was added in here. So one of them would be introducing new bylaws to address the public consumption of non-medical cannabis in our community. I'm not really sure if our current bylaw will cover that or not. And the other things would be revising or expanding existing smoking bylaws and developing new bylaws that limit the marketing of non-medical cannabis and products by local businesses. I think those three would be very essential for us.
Everybody in agreement?
Susan, do you have time to do that?
Thank you. Tierman Society Annual Grant.
So yes, Mr. Chair, previous years you have donated an annual grant of $200, and this is just them asking, and it is in your annual grants budget.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Do you need a motion on that? Do we? Yeah? Okay, I would so move, Mr. Chair.
I'll second that.
Been moved by Councillor Lewan and seconded by Mayor Danny McGilvery. All those in favor? Against? Motion carried. Our next item is Multicultural Fusion Festival.
Last year, the annual grant was donated $250, and it was held at Allen Park. This year, it's being held in New Glasgow. So, was it New Glasgow last year as well? My apologies. So yeah, that is also in the annual grants for this year.
I'd like to make a motion that we honor the annual grant.
I'll second that motion.
On the question, Your Worship, the past used to be we would rotate between New Glasgow and Stellarton, so I'm just wondering what changed this year.
I'm not sure, Councillor Lewan, that's why I thought it was in Allen Park last year, but I know now that this year it's being held in Glasgow Square parking lot, so I don't know why it wasn't moved.
Councillor Lewan, maybe when we send the check this time, we can ask for an explanation to the reasons why. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. I'll get clarification on that, Mr. Chair.
On the question as well, are we talking $100 donation or $250?
Last year it was $250, and that's what's in this year's annual grant budget.
It's been moved by Councillor Campbell and seconded by Councillor Knight. All those in favor? Against? Motion carried. Okay, we'll go on to item number 7, new business. Leading in the municipal sector, September 5th and 6th. You got the correspondence on that, Sue?
Yes, Mr. Chair. This is something that is being put on by the Association of Municipal Administrators, and it's being held in New Glasgow at Summer Street on September 5th and 6th. And it's just talking about leading in the municipal sector with relationships, decision-making, and innovation. And I'm asking council if any councillors are interested in attending, since it is in our backyard. And if they are, they can certainly let me know.
Next item we have to deal with is a draft copy of our policy on community grants.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this was tasked to me at the last meeting to provide a draft community grants policy, as council wishes to have a policy in place like other municipalities that would enable communities to, or community groups and organizations to request at a certain time so it can be considered for budget.
So what is the suggested cutoff date? Do we have one?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if you'll notice under policy 2.1.2, on or before February 28th.
Does that mean the form has to be submitted by February 28th, or we're going to consider it by February 28th?
They would be considered, so I apologize, it says in 2.1.1, no later than January 10th. My apologies.
January 10th is for the ad in the paper itself. I know the county's February 28th is a cutoff date for their grant applications.
So yes, it would be on or before February 28th, either committee of the whole or an ad hoc committee appointed by council will consider the request and provide a recommendation. So the deadline would be February 28th, and then the next committee of the whole meeting it would be considered. Sorry.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just have one question. It says here to advertise in the local newspaper. I think right now all of our grants are filled year over year to the max, actually. Do we need to advertise it and bring more in?
I agree. I think we have to just like community groups. There could be new community groups out there who are deserving of a grant. So I think it's appropriate.
Other question that I have is, it says in point 2.1.1, second line, indicating details of the program. Will you be creating those details, or what kind of details are we providing?
We would create an application and ask certain questions that they would need to fill out.
Just for council information, I know because for Child Transit, the same process the county uses. They have an application form that has to be filled out, and then with budgets and stuff like that. So it's pretty rigorous, and I think it's a good step for us to take us the right direction. Thank you.
I have to agree with you, Mayor McGilvery. I think this is a good step for council, because sometimes we run out of money and we feel bad. Brian, you bring up some good points at the last meeting there, and I think this is one of the reasons that drove us towards this policy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, we're getting constant requests after the deadline all year after our budget is out there. And this year is to bring make everybody aware of the fact that they have to get it in. Organizations that are there should be aware of it. There is an escape clause there, get out of jail free clause, so if some emergency comes up, the council can override it.
Another point I wanted to make, we said the local paper, but it'd be also good to have it on our website too. Yeah. So do we have a motion to accept the policy?
Yeah, the other point is that local paper, that should be papers, so we have two, now that we only have two weeklies instead of a daily, so it should be in each paper. Thank you. I'll make a motion on that.
I will second that, Mr. Chair.
Moved by Councillor Knight and seconded by Councillor Lewan that we accept the annual grant policy put forward. All those in favor? Against? Motion carried. The next item, physician recruitment and retention request.
Mr. Chair, this is a request that has come from the Aberdeen Health Foundation regarding support for a recruitment officer. They would pay 50%, and they're asking the municipalities within Pictou County to pay the other 50%. The town of Stellarton is being asked for 9.6% of the request at $4,800 per year for 5 years.
Mr. Chair, if I can say, I haven't changed my position since the last meeting. It burns me that the government is downloading this. They have a Department of Health. They have a Minister of Health. They should be looking after that. It just burns me. But the thing that I look at is the fact that we have a lot of people out there without doctors. We just got notified, our own place here in Stellarton, we could lose 3 doctors there. They're losing the walk-in clinic. So suddenly, if they're not going to do something, it's only good sense, and I think that we should go ahead and support this. I would make a motion that yes, we go ahead and support the $4,800.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chair, and I'd agree wholeheartedly with Councillor Knight that this is an example of downloading to the municipal units, but we're in a position here in Pictou County where we need physicians, and we have the position to make a positive recommendation here, and that's what I think we should do, even though it's like Councillor Knight said, it burns me a little bit to do it, but I think it is the right decision for our council.
Oh, I'd like to just take a second here and go back. I was elected in 1988 to town council. We had a regional hospital board. There was a councillor from the town of Stellarton that sat on that board. We went from a regional hospital board that they said, we can do better, so they went to 9 boards in the province. Now they went from 9 boards in the province to 1. And what is Pictou County getting? What we're getting is downloading on us to pay for what their job is, and they're not doing it. It's complete failure of the Department of Health, the shape that our government has let the Department of Health go. And it's not only the Liberal government, it's been previous governments before that. And there, I spoke my mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tell me how you really feel now. Don't hold back. No, I agree 100%. And you know what? At the end of the day, people should speak in the elections and let their voices heard. You know, it's a big problem. It's downloading. It's hurting us. Right now, we're going to absorb it. I don't know how long we're going to be able to absorb it in the future, but at one point or another, guess what? It's going to be downloaded on our residents here in Stellarton. You know, not now or later, it's going to happen. The one question that I have, though, Susan, is you said 50% from the Aberdeen Foundation, but I read here it was 1/3 plus 2/3. Okay, so just a correction, so 1/3 from the Aberdeen Foundation and 2/3 from the community partners. And I full-heartedly, with that, agree. Yes, thank you.
I got to agree with Councillor Knight. I think the doctor situation in Pictou County is going to be a crisis. I honestly feel that we don't have a choice here at this point. We honestly don't. So we have a motion on the floor. It's been moved by Councillor Knight and seconded by Mayor McGilvery. All those in favor? Aye. Against? Motion carried. The next item, Danny, be recreation.
Yes, the recreation for all.
Good evening. So at the council meeting, in my report, I had a recommendation from the Recreation Committee, Recreation Advisory Committee that was brought up before in budget time around waiving field fees for children under the age of 18. This really only affects 2 facilities that we have in Stellarton, which is the soccer facility and also the Albion baseball field for some of the teams that are there. There was a request for some more information. I provided that information and hopefully answered some questions. I was just looking for a motion from council on the proposal.
Thank you for your work on this. Paul, did you get confirmation that the registration fees would be reduced if we waive these fees?
So the goal was that by waiving fees for facility costs, that the registration fees for primary users would be lowered. For a group that comes in and uses the fields, you know, half a dozen times out of the year versus one that's on the field 12 times a week, obviously one will be able to represent or show a reduced cost and the other one wouldn't. So towards the primary user, and so for example the NNU Soccer Club, they have already shown the reduction in fees in anticipation of this. So they've reduced recreation soccer. So for example, a child was roughly $100 and now it's down to, I believe it was 60 this year. So it was a significant decrease. Now, some of these fees, of course, with big organizations like this have to go to their provincial sport body, the district that is running them, and things like that. But facility cost does add up. And a similar project like this was done on a much bigger scale in Amherst, according with their rink, as many of you are aware. So this is a very small change that hopefully would have an impact, or at least set a precedent to kind of help others follow suit. We have a number of facilities already in Stellarton that the sample fields, for example, are being run by Stellarton Minor Baseball, and so there's no field fees from us to them. Same with the Dorrington complex, so really is only affecting two fields. So they have shown a reduction this year. So to answer your question.
Thank you. I know we've discussed this before, and I'm comfortable with this. I'm willing to make a motion that we accept the recreation for all.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman. And to further, Your Worship, I spoke to some of the different teams that were involved in the programs, and coaching and being involved in sports myself, they run it pretty skim. I mean, they don't overcharge. They basically charge what their costs are. So if their costs are low, it'll reflect in their fees.
It's been moved by Mayor Danny McGilvery and seconded by Councillor Brian Knight. All those in favor? Against? Motion carried.
Only thing I would say, Mr. Chair, is thank you very much, Paul. Really appreciate it. I also want to thank the committee, the leadership of the committee that made this happen. Brian and Gary and everybody else on the committee. Really, really appreciate it. I am involved personally with soccer, and right now the fees are getting to be a hindrance on a lot of the kids. It's families. You're absolutely right. So if we are able to reduce that cost, that is a great news. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
All right, Mayor McGilvery. Next is transit.
So just to give an update on the transit study, this council has approved $1,250 towards a $5,000 study. In the meantime, since we approved that, there's been some movement with the province and with the municipalities, and the province has agreed to fund the study 100%. It'll be a different study, but the province has agreed for 100% coverage of that study. The study will be in the neighborhood of about $30,000, I believe. It should be pretty robust and dig deep into the details, and it will focus on the Stellarton, New Glasgow, Westville, Trenton possible public transit system. So that, I think, will be moved by the councils this summer and probably put in if it all goes well, we should have a study by this fall, some point in the fall. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Your Worship, do you know anything about buses?
No, a little about buses.
Yeah, this study is going to be more in depth, isn't it? More than the last one. That's good. Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll move on to open forum. Is there anybody in the audience? Doesn't look like it.
Your Worship, I just want to say the homecoming is this weekend. Nobody forgets, please. The ring dance, of course. 10 for you, 11, whatever you want. You just show up, we'll be there. I won't, but you will. No, I just want to thank the committee, homecoming committee. They worked tirelessly to put this homecoming on. I would like to thank personally our rec director, Paul. He has gone above and beyond this year. I really appreciate that. And Susan, if you can please put it on his file. What a great job he did this time out. So I really appreciate it. The event is going to be this weekend. Wednesday is the Council in the Park, and hopefully the mayor is going to be there to open the ceremonies. And Sunday will be the finale with the concert and the fireworks. So hopefully to see everybody there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lewan. Our next Committee of the Whole meeting will be September the 24th at 5:30 p.m.
I'll move that we adjourn.
It's been moved by Mayor McGilvery that we adjourn.